stressor.
Chris will be here soon.
Oh, I see. I got you what you're saying.
That sounded sarcastic.
You got what you got.
The place, in hindsight, I probably should have told them, Google Doodle, I was not available today. We have a huge event tomorrow. Sick.
So let's
Okay, let's
begin
begin.
Friday, June 26th, Parks, Recreation and Refuge Committee meeting.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here. We do have quite a few items on the agenda today. The first item that we have listed here is a discussion of our volunteer structure, volunteer advisory structure. Particularly, we wanted to highlight how that works for youth soccer and youth softball. And Mel put together a little attachment that we had listed that broke down some of the achievements and contributions that have been made recently. And Mel's invited some representatives from those advisory committees to attend today's meeting as well, this topic as well. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight that one of the persons that we were expecting, looks like you can't make it, kind of last thing they send in written comments. So we passed that out for you. So Mel, maybe you want to introduce this a little bit more thoroughly, and then we can kind of dive in.
Absolutely. So, youth sports advisory committees, we've got specifically two, frankly. Softball board, which are the ladies in the back here, they're with Mercedes and McKenna. Soccer board, Alicia is representing that right now, also represented through the letter, Charlie Thomas. And it sounds like Chris is showing up.
On his way.
Husband Chris, who is the treasurer for that group. McKenna and Mercedes over here. McKenna is the incoming president. She will be taking over in August, is that right? And then Mercedes has been on the board in every capacity in softball for at least 5-6 years, I think, so longer. All of them. Okay, good talk. So the way softball and soccer boards work, which are frankly not necessarily unique to us. Morro Bay has a very similar structure where in Morro Bay, the city, here the CSD is responsible for most of the admin work, putting teams together with assistance. Everything we do is with assistance from these boards. And then that sort of frees these advisory committees up for bettering the programs, right? Doing all of the things that are above and beyond what a city or a community services district can reasonably provide. There's been assistance with equipment purchases, work on the field. I mean, softball board just put almost $10,000 into the field this year, and the snack bar. Soccer is looking to help purchase the new goals. This is all just this year alone, right? So they do a lot of fundraising through snack bar operations, through all-star participation, that frankly we are not equipped to do. So it works as a very sort of symbiotic relationship where we provide what we are best at, and then we get volunteers to help provide what they are best at, right? Which is, frankly, passion for the sport or the program, right? So we brought some of them here today to discuss all of that and how that works, answer any questions that aren't, so it's not just coming from me. And, there are other groups in the community that we, sort of partner with. Youth Baseball, which is an all volunteer run league. They asked us in 2021, I think it was, to take over their program. And we declined because there would be a lot of extra work without a lot of extra monetary benefit. Similar to youth football, who doesn't want anybody to run their program. But we do work with them for flag football. They help run the snack bar so that we can provide a service to the community without having to physically provide that service. So, yeah, so that's about where we're at.
So you had mentioned some of the boards help to purchase equipment and things like that. Those funds are coming from the snack bar?
Typically, a little bit of both. So one of the big benefits of this model is an all-star program. And I think that's sort of where a lot of the advisory, I wasn't around in the 80s when this all started, right? But the recreation department does not operate All Stars. It is in direct competition with the spirit of recreational play. This is for the cream of the crop. It's for the best of the best. It is not for everyone. We provide programs that are for everyone to participate. But All Stars is a thriving program, and so the advisory committees are solely responsible for that. We do very light administrative work because we hold the keys to certain things like printing player cards, which takes, I don't know, in fact, mostly the boards come and help with that, right? Or approving certain processes, right? So they are responsible, both independently are responsible for the All-Star program, and that can also be a good fundraiser for their boards. So it is in a bit of combination with the snack bar operations, the All-Star program, which can raise some money, and then other fundraisers outside of that. As an example, this year softball threw a drive-through barbecue, right, and raised some, I don't even know, was it 5,000? Yeah, 5,000 for that. They did a specific all-star car wash. I don't know what those numbers are. They're all-stars. I don't bother myself with it. I mean, I like to know. I like to support. But I'm sure they raised a good amount of money with that as well. And then again, with softball, there's the all-star tournament that's operated. We help with. We charge a fee to the team for participation and for our assistance with that. And I think that probably grossed quite a bit of money. So between snack bars and all of that, so.
And, the snack, oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
And so the snack bar, people like, operating are volunteers.
Volunteers or paid staff through the rec department that we get reimbursed for the total cost of. So soccer, as an example, uses rec department staff. We schedule them. They, at the end of the season, we get a total payroll cost, including all of the, workers' comp and all of the extra fees, right? FICA, all the taxes, everything that we pay for them. And we send that over to soccer board. They write us a check to cover the entirety.
Okay.
Softball board has done that in the past. This year used volunteers, one in particular, who was primarily responsible for sort of setting it all up. And so they get to keep everything. We don't have to charge them for that.
So just so I understand, the purpose of this topic initially was just to provide an explanation of how the volunteer advisory structure works symbiotically with the Templeton CSD.
Yeah.
But reading this letter, it sounds like maybe there's another discussion item within that. Is that something we want to talk about right now? Like within the TRD, and noted it appears to be reluctant from the board and fire department to combine with the TRD staff on fundraising events. Is that something that, this letter we want to have a conversation about, or I just want to make sure I understand what we're trying to accomplish right now?
I can try to provide some context. In this committee, coupled with another committee that was formed earlier this year, has been exploring ways, and that ad hoc committee made a recommendation to the board of directors which turned into the board requesting this committee to evaluate options to enhance or explore ways to get more out of volunteers, if that would free up staff time to focus efforts on fundraising. So and that's a long way of saying I think these first two topics are really to provide that background information about how we've done it in the recent past in terms of the volunteer efforts. And then after you've had this information, and this committee could then maybe at a future meeting determine whether or not there's capacity to report to get more out of them. I think some of the topics that the committee's discussed over the past couple of years is how we structure our programs and how that differs maybe from some of the other surrounding agencies or areas, and is the way we do it the best way moving forward?
Process improvement.
Well, we make a big investment in youth sports, right?
Of course, yeah.
In this community, and I think there's been just some question about whether or not that should be the way we remain providing those services going forward.
Understood.
So I didn't intend on being able to answer that question, or I didn't expect you to answer that question today,
Yeah.
but provide this information here as sort of background about how we're structured, how we've been structured in terms of what these advisory committees I think we probably loosely call them softball board, soccer board,
Sure,
what roles they serve.
okay,
And they're not, in the sort of, I think what Nels, most of that is on the field, like assisting with coaching and player development and then our efforts are primarily back behind the scenes, taking registration, assigning teams, dealing with we deal with all the money for registration. We deal with all the DOJ background checks for all the coaches. We deal with all the employment for officials.
sure. So I just wanna make sure I have an understanding of what the future goal is, so as I'm pulling in the information, I can understand it, or pull the information that suits it best, so I understand. So it is a lesson and how it all works for a future discussion on maybe a different way of doing it potentially, or doing it the same.
Yeah, is this way working or is there a better way?
Great, perfect, thank you.
I have a quick question about All-Stars. So, the All-Star programs, they pay a fee to reserve the fields, or how does it work in terms of coordination with?
We typically provide the fields for them.
And then, do you, who schedules? So like the field time, the games, everything?
They just tell me when they're gonna be there. So for
There's no
All-Stars,
conflicting other activities that we have?
well, right now we have, for example, softball All-Stars is operating. There's one team, right? They play out at Evers. They tell me what their schedule is looking like. If there's multiple teams, typically there'd only be up to 3, right? Which would be lovely to have 3 softball All-Star teams, right? We work the flag football practice schedule, which is very minimal, right? Around what's happening out there. So this season, we've got we've got softball All-Stars running 5 to 7, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on field 1, Shelby Field out there for the softball. We have 3, at Evers, we have 3 flag football fields. So we schedule the teams on everything past them. Every once in a while, someone goes rogue and then we go beat them up and then they come back. So it's typically a high school kid that's coaching that goes rogue. And
So All-Stars, we have softball, baseball?
we don't run
No
baseball.
baseball?
No.
What other all?
Soccer.
Soccer.
So the other thing with soccer is significantly bigger. It's our biggest program, obviously. So typically with soccer, we have about 6 teams, sometimes more. It happens in the winter when we're otherwise resting fields. There's no other conflicting program. It's basketball season. So they run their own schedule for that. They tell us what it is. If they need lights, we schedule the lights on. We schedule the lights on for them and soccer pays for the lights. So
Okay,
the fields, they get access to the fields, but the lights have a larger cost, so we have them pay a light fee.
just out of curiosity, why do we not charge for the use of the fields for softball if we charge other folks like?
I think we look at it as an extension of our own program, really. It's largely nominal impact, specifically in softball. Frankly, soccer is a
in
larger
terms-
impact
yeah.
on fields,
Yeah.
right? Softball's impact on the fields is usually on the dirt,
Yeah.
right? In fact, we often look at spring as somewhat resting the fields, right? It's not, but somewhat resting. We can grow good grass during that time. Because they're not running lines and all of that, like the impact is significantly smaller on the grass space. In soccer.
Now, maybe you can clarify. So for a player to be on a Templeton All-Star team, they would have needed to participate in that season's
They would, yes.
recreation program.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's really an extension of the rec program. It's not like a travel team that's formed
Right.
independently.
Yeah, we charge those extra.
Okay. Yeah, cause like other folks like, the rugby and stuff.
Yes, we had lacrosse over
Yeah, lacrosse.
at German Park. We charge them the, full costs.
And then, so can you give us a little bit, so in terms of the structure of the boards, like is there that like has to be a certain number of members or is it just?
Yeah, they both have their own sets of bylaws. Soccer actually has its own nonprofit associated to it that we sometimes filter things through, small things, because we need to keep it under a certain amount for taxes and whatever. Soccer boards bylaws require, I think, 5 members for the nonprofit. And then I think we have extra positions available just to help operate the program. Softball just redid their bylaws. You would think I would remember this, but I think you have also 7 or 5.
5.
Is it 5? Yeah. So it's typically president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and then some sort of, what's the 5th one? Probably, yeah, UIC for softball, I think an umpire coordinator, right, that I work with. And then what do you guys have?
We have members at large or
Member at large.
advisory,
There we go.
and it can be a coaches or a player representative.
There we go.
And are most of the members, are you changing per year? Is it like dependent upon whether or not your kid's in active sports?
Yeah, Leash.
Kids active in sports, I used to do it a long time ago, took a big break, and now I'm back.
Yeah,
I had a surprise child.
we had a pleasant surprise.
Back in.
Typically what we see, not always, typically what we see is their parents of kids in the program. I think Dale Wiggins participated for years after, as a soccer board president, for years after his kids sort of aged up and moved on. But it was something he was passionate about. Charlie Thomas is another good example of that. He has now got 3 granddaughters in the program. And
Is
he's
that who
just-
we met?
Yes, yeah, the one who wrote the letter also.
Yes.
He's got granddaughters, but he's also actively coaching in the community for high school and middle school. He also coaches our rec high school program and uses that as a sort of, as the all-stars move on, he kind of uses it as pseudo club kind of thing, but it's all recreational and just to keep the kids playing. So sometimes we see these like folks that are hyper passionate about the sport, they just want to keep participating or keep leading, right? But typically they'll rotate through as their kids move on. And then Mercedes, for example, had an older daughter in the programs, right? She's looking to be a junior this year. Senior, you gotta be kidding me. And now we're on little baby Violet, who's coming up, and she's in U10. And so we kind of, rotate. Folks who are passionate about the sports tend to stay passionate about the sports. And if they continue, their kids continue to participate in the programs, they like to be involved. It's really hard to know a lot about something and not do anything about it.
And are you like pitching the boards? Like, how do you guys solicit? Like, so when somebody signs up, are you like, hey, by the
Yes.
way, got these boards?
Yes, anytime they complain, anytime they give accolades, right? So it's, if you wanna be a part of a solution, come participate. We have a meeting on whatever, the 2nd Tuesday, the 3rd Tuesday of the month. Anytime there are big accolades, like, man, the dirt's, I've heard a lot this year, the field is looking really nice at Shelby Field. Like, great, it was all the board, let's go, right? Come join that conversation. So every once in a while, there's some difficult moments on the boards where difficult people, frankly, that just like to stir a pot a little bit. So then we flood the board with really good people and vote them out. So it takes all the volunteers have to do it. I'm not.
Yeah. Do you guys have terms or is it just?
They're usually
annual?
years. So softball board, for example, they vote people in April, but then the newly elected positions sort of shadow the current positions
Oh.
through August. And then in August, they take over, which is kind of the off season, and start prepping. Soccer tends to stay a bit more stable for some reason. So I think the elections for that are in May, I think. No, that would be silly. They are after the end of the season, so I think they're in December. So,
Who votes?
technically, anybody who is participating in the program is eligible to vote. Who actually votes? The board members.
And no
That's
term,
what shows
no
up.
term limits, then someone could be on the board
They
forever.
can, yeah, they
Which
can
makes
continue.
sense.
Yeah.
Believe me, if someone wanted my position, I
This-
would have it.
The soccer board's
I'm
looking
sure,
for a
I
treasurer,
understand.
we're looking for.
Okay,
And
did
then-
you, sorry,
Oh, no, go ahead.
did you guys have something to add to this, or did we wanna talk about item 2 and then maybe you guys have something to add to this? I mean, just, you're here, asking questions, is there any hopes, dreams, wishes, comments?
I would like it to stay as it is. Personally, just because I've been in this program my oldest is 25 and he's about to have a baby who will play soccer. But, he was through the whole program, went through high school soccer, Mel was his first boss, cause he was a ref in the program. Both my boys did that. I'm sure my third coming up will do the same. He'll probably ref basketball as well. I think it's super, our town sticks out and people flock to our sports because we have a program that administers all the paperwork and the goobly gop and the stuff none of the volunteers would have time to do. And they do it really well. There's nothing like having John, Mel, and Bree, the boss of my children at some point. It really is a village mentality, and it is invaluable in my mind, not only for the community, but for individual families to have them facilitating all the things they do. We're happy to volunteer, but I do not have the time or could not do what they do for our programs. It's invaluable for this community.
Sure. And just to clarify, anyone in the surrounding communities can play in this community? What's the rules on that?
Yeah, anybody can play, so it varies, well, for rec, anybody can play, right? They just have to pay, so if
Play to
they.
pay, okay.
Absolutely.
I got you.
So if you live in the Templeton School District boundaries, which are significantly larger than the CSD boundaries, it's like a nominal fee. I think it's $15, right? If you, as an example, live in Paso and go to school in Paso, we just raised it, I think it's $65. So on top of the fees, right? So soccer this year is $200. So if you live in Paso, go to school in Paso, you're paying $265. Okay, and someone just signed 3 kids up at that rate. Plus a $3 fee for the website. So we took $800 from them for 3 kids. It was great.
They donated
Yeah.
$800 for their
exactly.
kids to have an invaluable
So-
experience.
Amen.
Specifically so that they had us running their program and not a bunch of volunteers.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome.
which is what she told me, not what I'm saying. I didn't put words in her mouth.
And
She literally said that.
Is there anyone out in the world that wants to change our structure?
So I guess what just kind of what I've kind of heard this committee discuss previously is the surrounding communities for, let's just say use soccer, because and that's actually the next topic. Every sport is kind of handled differently, but soccer being one that most of the surrounding communities are kind of volunteer-based programs where there isn't a city or district that's administering the program. Morro Bay is more like us. And there's been some interest on the committee to explore whether or not that alternative might be viable for Templeton as a cost savings measure or a way of freeing up resources that we're putting towards youth sports. So I think that's been like just an exploration. I don't know if that captured what this committee and the ad hoc committee had discussed previously. Okay.
Yeah, I
But
think like overall, because the district is facing a deficit, you know, there's been concerns about like, how can we increase efficiency, and the fact that, you know, Mel has such a small team, there's only so much that Mel can do, so like, how can we, this mostly was an educational topic so that we can understand.
Yeah.
Are there ways that we can leverage the volunteer boards to take a little bit off of staff's plate? We have an active softball board and soccer, no basketball.
No bets.
Okay.
We've had a basketball board in the past. It never really took flight, right? Most of what they did was sell swag, like sweatshirts, right? We're not allowed to have a snack bar at the gyms, right? And the gyms are operated through the schools, and this is typical in other cities where they're operated at city facilities. So the cities take a much larger, and similar to us, public agencies, they'll take a much larger role in those operations because they're at mine, right? And for some reason, indoor spaces, people are a lot more controlling with, because it seems like the damage done there can be significantly larger. So, and by damage, I do mean like accidental from kids just running around and getting silly.
Well, and I understand both sides of the coin. Okay, can you free up Mel? And I'm not saying we have to come up with a decision. I'm just exploring it, but it sounds like from a board and people who are on the other side of it, they don't know how they would manage that part of it, so. Again, not going down any roads supporting either one of those, I'm just trying to look at both sides of the coins. From your position, Mel, is there something that, like, let's say you could pick one thing that would free up a little bit that you think that they could take? Just something, you know, I'm always looking at the middle ground here. If you did, or would you even wanna do that, or what's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we already lean pretty heavily on the boards, right? So, when I can't be somewhere, like with John, I'm gonna keep picking on soccer because it's so big. We have 3 parks running 9 fields, right? Of games throughout a Saturday, right? So there are consistently board members wherever we are not, right? 'Cause 2 staff, 3 locations, it just doesn't fit, right? So we'll have board members there to assist. As softball board, soccer board, both of them primarily operate the preseason assessments, right? We print out the sheets, right, for the tally sheets or whatever, and we check kids in, we greet them, we make everybody feel comfortable, but the boards themselves run that as far as you know, sort of the tryout, the assessment before the season starts. And then we tally everything, we put it on these little things, and then they come in and they help us make teams to make sure they're balanced, right? Because they know the kids differently than we do, right? So I think, you know, there's an enormous amount of effort that they put in sort of behind the scenes as well. That it's not just us, right? Coordinating them takes a little bit of time, but that's what we do. That's literally what we do. Right? Is coordinating everybody to be everywhere.
And it sounds like if you got $800 from a family, it seems to be like, you know, maybe providing some sort of input and income to the CSD. Cause it sounds like the thing that they don't want to take on and wouldn't have the ability would be the administrative side of it, of signing people up and going through that process. But the CSD does make a little bit of money on that.
Sure.
So is that something, I'm just trying to get to.
Yeah, so I guess just to provide, again, further background, we kind of evaluated, you know, all the income streams coming into Parks and Recreation and where the expenses lie and in terms of, yes, the registration for the youth sports more than covers the direct costs associated, but it doesn't fully offset the overhead costs of running the program. So when I say direct costs, it covers the cost of uniforms and officials and soccer balls and those kinds of things. It doesn't fully offset the cost of, well, or the cost of our full-time staff members. It partially offsets the cost of the full-time staff members, but it doesn't fully offset the cost of the full-time staff members. So yes, from the perspective of if we ceased to have that income stream and we cut all the expenses, we'd actually be a little worse off unless we cut other expenses, because it more than covers the direct costs, but doesn't fully cover the indirect costs.
Okay, so but you would, if you were to keep the staff and eliminate it, then you would just be even more, so it
Yes.
covers some of the staff,
We'd
so.
be worse off.
The thought is there a creative way to cover all the staff through it, or, you know, whatever the de-scoping might be? So, okay, I'm just trying to get the picture here, so. Did you guys have any input on it?
No.
Okay.
Good talking. Ken.
Yeah. I'll stop asking so many questions.
The other thing I would add to what Mel said about employing, you know, younger kids who come up through the program. I'm the GM at Templeton Tennis Ranch, and I just hired about 22, rehired and hired new 22 staff for my aquatics program for the summer. I think every single application that came across my desk had Mel or John listed as a reference for one of their first jobs they've ever had. I mean, that's just one company of kids from our community coming to us to get employment. I would say 99% of them have had their first employment experience has been through the rec department. So these kids are cycling through the program, they're learning more than just youth sports. And I don't know if that's something, if we were a volunteer-based program, you would have that. This wouldn't be an employment opportunity. They wouldn't have a job they're reporting to for their first ever to somebody other than mom and dad, and getting actually paid and learning how to do a W-2 and
They would just cash their checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think it's a good.
We're outstanding.
That's true.
It is. But we do, we employ probably 90 to 100, generally young, but people. I mean, they're not all, we have some that are seniors. or have, in these roles, annually, between the various youth sports.
I mean, I think that's great, and to your point, it provides a learning, working opportunity. I think everyone at 16 is the minimum 16 to go do
14 and in high school.
with the workers permit or whatever it is, yeah. You know, cause I mean, that was the best thing I did was get a job at 16 years old, so I actually think that's great. Anyway, I see both sides of the coin and I can see both challenges, so.
Quick question, who handles picture day?
We make the schedule and we give it to, currently it's Photostop and they take care of everything.
Oh,
We
okay.
sometimes check in on them to make sure that everybody's on time and they're not being abused. And I think we reserve the spaces, right? So, softball picture day, we usually combine with baseball and that'll be over at German Park if the weather holds. Soccer picture day is at Vineyard, so we'll secure the space, but they set everything up. The picture company sets everything up. And we just give them a schedule, mostly because we know all the things about the schedule, so.
But the administration, this behind the scenes work also includes all this scheduling, which is
Right.
not,
Oh, yeah.
which is a pretty significant effort.
Sure.
You know, so it's not just signups, but also there's a scheduling, makeup games, rainouts, practice scheduling, coordinating all those with coaches' availability, et cetera.
Staff as well, some of them are participating on teams and working, so
Oh, yeah.
working through that.
Do the boards handle like, who do angry parents complain to? Is it Mel or is it you guys?
Everyone they can find. You guys hear it, I'm sure. You got angry parents, right, as coaches or as board members. You do too. Mostly they find me or John. Typically, I would like to interfere that, you know what I mean? Sometimes they'll be typically what they're angry about is, game officials, right? Teenagers making mistakes. We're not calling things fast enough because the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. And we're asking them to make judgment calls and they're still developing that. So usually what happens is that's part of why we're on the field so often during game days is so that we can interrupt that, right? We'll get right in front of them. You can talk to me about this. I will go talk to them about what mistake they're making. But you're not gonna talk to a teenager like that.
That's why it's harder to get refs and umpires more and more.
Yes, yeah. Umpires especially, nothing happens without a judgment call, with that, right?
The umpire totally-
Every play, right?
I've
Every
done that
pitch.
plenty of times.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. It's my first job was here. How far I've come.
Full circle moment.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so what does the nonprofit for the soccer board do? Like basically like fiscal flexibility?
Mostly for all-stars, right?
Yeah,
So
primarily
collecting,
for the All-Star program.
What are my only questions are related to the board structures? Thank you all so much for being here and for participating and helping us propel our sports forward. My daughter's joining soccer this year for the first year. She's 4, so.
Oh, you're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
That's bunch ball.
Bunch ball.
Bunch ball.
That makes
Bunch
sense.
of
They're also
grapes.
the same size as the balls.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome to soccer Saturdays.
Yeah,
That's
we're preparing to be a soccer family. We'll see if she likes it. So we'll see. I don't know about softball. She's, we'll see.
T-ball's a good time. I'm good at the right coach.
T-ball's great.
Thank you. Okay, so connected to that, Mel, I think this is probably you again. An overview of staffing and coaches structure and the roles and responsibilities for each sports.
Yeah, totally. So I think there's
I'm trying, but I think we're running into the tech trouble. It keeps opening up another tab, but they're not accessible.
Oh, that's a good thing. So I created this brilliant Excel spreadsheet with very clear, dynamic
Yeah.
graphs, charts. Oh, that's really.
Pivot tables.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is, basically similar to what we did a few months ago in one of our meetings, comparing, local communities and how their, youth sports programs are operated and who does what within those, right? So if you look at, just soccer, for example, I think just starting at the north, Paso Robles is AYSO, everything is volunteer, by requirement, through AYSO. So coaches, advisory committee, which is the board, they're solely responsible for it. Their referees are all volunteers. And that is all by requirement to participate as an AYSO organized program. We play through Cal South. Specifically because when we were formed through the rec department, we decided to, not we, they decided to affiliate to Cal South because there were recreational programs that could be operated through a department, right? Through, where someone is essentially administering the program, not as a volunteer. So then you come to us. We have sort of a blend of that. We've got, obviously we run the program. We have advisory committee members or volunteers that help facilitate the program. The referees work for us. Atascadero is all volunteer and they do pay their referees. They are a Cal South program, so they're able to pay their referees. That is typically through the snack bar, right? They just kind of go get their money out of the snack bar, or some programs write their referees checks every couple of weeks, right? I don't know exactly what Atascadero's model is. It shifts every once in a while. They did just ask the city to take over their program as well. The city declined, but it's, once we give it up, we're never getting it back, right? So, the Atascadero Youth Soccer had asked the city of Atascadero to run the program.
Can I, quick question before you continue? You said that that we are affiliated with Cal South,
Correct.
but in what way? So like we take their.
Sure, so they provide, similar to softball, for example, when we get to that section, it's USA Softball. There are other sort of parent umbrella organizations we can affiliate to. So for Cal South, which is part of the California Youth Soccer Association, there's Cal North, Central Cal, and then Cal South. They provide additional insurance. We pay, I think, $12 a kid for the participation. And then we get, through that, we get which is enveloped into their fees, by the way, that they pay us, right? Through that, we get access to things like their All-Star program. So I think, when was Norco, like 5 years ago when we won every single one? Was it right before COVID? I think it was 2019. We sent 6 soccer teams down to Norco for the Cal South Tournament of All-Stars, all the recreation for all of Southern California, right? We're the northernmost section. Our 6 teams went down there and took first place in every division, right? It was amazing. And then we got Recreational League of the Year, so, which was really cool. So USA Softball, for example, it's the same thing. They provide additional insurance that we pay for through the participation fees or the registration fees. For that, I think it's $24 a player, $23 for the coaches. Same for Cal South. We have to pay, for the coaches to be registered through them as well. But it provides additional insurance, essentially.
So
This
is
is also
Atascadero-
access.
also structure, like field sizes, team sizes, age makeup, there's consistency in how the
Exactly.
programs ran. And so think of it like, I guess I'd compare it to like, say, Little League versus, Cal Ripken baseball. They're different ways of running the same sport, and you affiliate with a certain set of rules and
Create some uniformity in that way.
So do we pay them less than, say, Atascadero does? Because, I'm just looking at the refs, right? So we pay our refs through, they're basically,
There's
They're
just
district,
employees in the
right.
district, yeah.
and so Atascadero does it separately though, where they
So
are,
they don't have to be employees because they're not a, public agency, right? It's just a group of volunteers.
got it,
So
got
they
it.
just secure them. In fact, all of their refs come to our ref training,
Got
right,
it.
that we host. I mean, we don't pay for it, it's free, but we host at our fields, their refs come and participate.
okay, got it.
But they also don't have to follow employment law for minors, right? So, which is really hard to mess up when you're working in soccer, for example. But they can hire 12 and 13-year-olds to work the games, and they do. So.
Slave
which is
labor.
Scary.
Crazy.
So,
Sorry, thank you so much.
no, you're good.
Please continue.
Okay, so those also, they provide additional insurance for the participants, right? We just had a parent come in, their kid broke his finger in soccer. And she had to pay nothing out of pocket. I think she had to hit her like minimum, right, that we would all have to hit. But she had to pay almost nothing out of pocket because where her private insurance that she has through her work ended, the Cal South, this was soccer, so Cal South kicked in. And the same thing goes for USA Softball with our softball organization. When you look at, so if we keep going south, right, so Morro Bay, that's a good example of, they're similar to us, they run everything, right? City of Atascadero operates basketball, right? They have a very unique system with their basketball refs. I don't think they hire someone, but they have someone in charge who is not paid by the city of training the refs and scheduling the refs. I think they're an independent contractor. And they pay this person however much they pay them, and all of the referees get paid through this person, right? So if they give this guy $5,000 to run the program, that guy uses $5,000 to pay refs to be at all the games, right? They do hire on their scorekeepers for the games, which is interesting. So the scorekeepers are paid staff, but the referees are not. And I don't know why. And I don't think they like that model, but they are unsuccessful in getting it to change. And a lot of that is because of the independent contractor laws that changed a few years ago, making it significantly more difficult for rec departments everywhere. San Luis Obispo has some blended sort of version of this specific to basketball. The YMCA mostly runs basketball, but the city of SLO takes all of the registrations and pays the YMCA a portion of it to sort of run the programs. But also shows up and referees and they all help, right? But all the employees are through the YMCA.
And they're able to do that because there's a YMCA in San Luis.
Correct. The YMCA runs basketball in Paso Robles. They had 8 teams last year total in the city of Paso Robles. We had 47. Right, and I would say frankly, I think I did a numbers for that on one of my advisory or one of my activity reports. Basketball is probably the biggest one where we have people from outside the area, right? And I think it was still something like 20%. It wasn't even as big as I would think it would be. They just don't play basketball in Paso. Morro Bay runs everything similar to us. Pueblo Sosos, they have soccer. That's about it. I think that's beach cities. They're different. I think that's the ones we covered, right?
Yeah, seems like the larger the city gets, the less they wanna manage that type of thing. Morro Bay and Templeton seem uniform, and then Paso,
Yeah.
Atascadero and SLO seem like, except for the city and YMCA with SLO basketball.
And you know, the city of Paso ran their youth sports programs specific to basketball and a few other programs for years. And then when 2008 hit, I think it also hit with frankly, some employee issues with the person who was in charge of those programs. And so it made more sense for the city to release all of the programs and that employee just due to budget deficits. So, and they're trying to get some things back now. I don't know that they'll be successful, so.
And then in terms of the actual tasks, like the responsibilities, so TCSD, so staff take care of the registration for all sports, background checks for coaches, scheduling, assigning teams and then the scheduling of games.
There is assistance with all of this, just maybe not the registration part, but the team creations, there's assistance with that.
Opening and closing of fields, that's also collaborative, or is that just?
It depends, but typically that's us. We have our parks person on the weekdays, and whoever's on call on the weekends opens the parks. They're typically there before we are. If we're gonna be there first, I let them know they don't need to come out, so.
What other administrative sort of like categories am I missing?
Personality management?
Yeah. Yeah.
Field, for soccer in particular, soccer, flag football, field prep, field lining.
Is a big part of it.
It's a big effort.
But isn't that primarily, or
So
Obviously, with your leadership, but
paint on the fields is TCSD staff, right? Cause we have big machines for that.
okay,
And then field prep for softball is very different, right? Soccer fields get painted once a week, right? Softball and T-ball, right? The paint on the fields for the foul ball lines or the little T-ball diamonds in the grass, that's TCSD staff. But the softball coaches and parent volunteers are responsible for the extra stuff, like prepping the fields, the chalk, laying them out, they drag the fields,
wetting the
make sure
fields.
dirt is healthy.
There's more intense, like between every game and sometimes during the game, there's field maintenance for softball and baseball that doesn't exist for soccer and flag football.
Although soccer board members, I mean, I see Charlie and sometimes you guys out there, using zip ties to tie the nets back together or making sure they're on all the goals, right? So they're out doing all kinds of stuff too. But the bulk of that work is gonna be CSD because it's our parks and our very expensive robot painters.
and then, the school district takes care of most of that stuff for basketball.
Yeah, because basketball, it's indoor courts, right? Except for practices are outdoors,
Okay,
but those lines are already on there, right?
but like
So,
opening, closing the facilities?
no, we do it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. We do it, with the school district specifically, we have an MOU. I think it goes up a certain amount every year. We're somewhere around $6,500 a year. If they charged us the going rate for what we use their facilities for, it would price us out of participation, right? But we do that in exchange for not having a big impact on their staff, right? So we're gonna be there anyway, we open the fields, or open the gyms, right?
got it.
If it's not me or John, it's one of like the senior staff, so.
Okay.
So that way we don't have to pay like a custodial staff, frankly, to be out there, would be a lot more expensive.
And then forgive this like very,
You wanna go offline?
well, so like when you're doing these, like the team assignments and the scheduling and stuff, do you have do you have software?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not just like,
Well, sometimes we have to do it
Yeah.
manually. It depends on what sport it is, right? So soccer, because it's so big that we only play ourselves, right? I can enter in whatever into our little system. We have the online registration software has it. We have 6 teams, they play on this field, they play from these general times, create me a schedule, right? Softball has 5 leagues that play within the whole county, right? And there are so many variables that is nearly impossible, so that can be a little more manual. But we utilize the other leagues, right? We just put this all into a Google Doc, basically, and give access to the league leaders. And they all go in there and enter their teams and their times and their locations. Most of what we do is say, where the game will be played, right? They say who's playing, what time, all of that, so.
okay,
Basketball is similar. We mostly play ourselves. We do really the city of Atascadero, sometimes city of Morro Bay. But those are all, they're all recreation staff, right? So we work together very well and we can get it all done in a jiff. So it's nice to work with professionals.
The government gets it done in a jiff.
Semi-professionals. We're very fast at it. We do spend a couple hours a year having preseason meetings, so.
Oh, I
Sometimes we hang out offsite too, just for
Um,
funsies, cause we're friends.
coach training or, like mentorship is done a little bit by the board, but also by like is there
Everybody shows up for
orientation?
that, yes,
Okay.
exactly. So if we have coach training for basketball, we typically get, like a local basketball coach to come out and do something. Soccer, Cal South sends someone up to do training for free. So, the board comes out and we typically use coach training days as roster and equipment handout days and introducing the boards. Making sure everybody knows who to go to when there's a problem. If you can't find me or John, go find a board member. Softball's been pretty small. We haven't had much in the way of coach training, but when there's been field prep training and things like that, that kind of happens independently within each team. We had like 8 teams this year, so it kind of works, but really the board is the board members are the coaches too, so they're taking care of that.
think those are my questions right now. I don't, either of you have any?
No, you covered it.
Okay. Did I miss anything that you guys feel like you want us to make sure that we know that you guys do?
Good opportunity to sing your own praises. I've been trying. You guys do a lot of work, man. I have told everybody I know I would not do this for free.
In all honesty, with regards to what was spoken about complaints
Yeah.
and disgruntled parents.
Yeah.
They do sometimes come to us, I don't know what they do with softball, they do sometimes come to us, and we do the listening.
Uh-huh.
And then we report back to Mel and say, if, you know, Mel's gonna be the best person, because you're the person who's not a parent to
Yeah.
these kids.
Or
I mean, you're a parent to these
Or
kids.
removed, yeah.
I mean, Mel's on my emergency contacts, but, like, they handle all the disgruntledness in a subjective, you know, objective way. And so if you're a parent, sure, you can be supportive and listen, but you don't want to be the one who's necessarily determining that line of that's not good for the community.
Right.
So having them to be able to make those decisions and define things, which we support, is really important.
You guys have a hard time building up your boards? Do you feel like it's hard to get people to want, I mean, it sounds like you got pulled back in, so.
She said if someone wanted her
Yeah,
job. they-
I did get pulled back in.
It's really hard to get those people that are truly dedicated for the whole of the
For the
program.
right reason.
There's always been this element, fortunately few and far between, that come in that are, they're there for their kid or their team, or, you know, not the right reasons for joining the board. They fortunately don't last very long.
Nope.
They recognize that it's not the environment for them to be in, or they got what they wanted or didn't get what they tried to do, and then they leave.
And that is another purpose for Mel and John,
Yeah.
is they see they can't get that. And other towns, I've heard the stories where there isn't that kind of source. And so there's a lot of manipulation and a lot of things happening that are unfair and people don't feel good about. That doesn't happen as much here because there's someone who's managing
Professionalized.
the
Yeah.
situation, yeah.
Cause I don't have a horse in the race.
Yeah,
I don't win anything. More
You
than a
don't, and you
paycheck.
don't let the power go to your head.
I'm drunk with power most nights, but not during the day.
okay, all right, that was, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
of course.
Any other questions for that one? Okay,
Just before you move on, did that
Yes.
provide us a baseline information about
Yes.
the sort of structure and?
yeah, I think I was
That's fine.
most like interested also in like sort of the nitty gritty of like the specific tasks and understanding. I think, because we talk about admin, and that's such a big blanketed term, and so
Sure.
it's good for me at least to know like all of the specific tasks that you are able to do that would be maybe a little more challenging for a board to take on, especially given some of the interpersonal dynamics.
And quite honestly, some of it's just a lot of like like if you deal with registration, we have,
Yeah.
so we have like 800 kids who play soccer. And so getting someone to say, yes, I wanna be the player, I'll use a little league term, cause that's
Player agent.
playing your agent,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden now I'm handling 800 registrations
Yeah.
and keying all of that, making sure all that information's in, that's a big nut to crack when we haven't tasked. We haven't, the volunteers haven't had to deal with that stuff
Right,
before.
yeah.
Well, at least in decades here. And so that would be kind of a big ask.
Yeah, yeah, no, I really appreciate like just understanding the depth and complexity of what, you know, when we say team assignments, what do we mean? When we say scheduling games, like what, yeah.
Team creation is fun. We got little player cards for everybody, right? We like do this like mail merge with all the data that we collect on all this like on our Excel sheets, right? And we have their name, their birthday, the size shirt they wear, what grade they're in, what their end of season assessment score was last year, what their preseason assessment score is this year,
Wait, you're
what their
not having
special
to
requests.
register it, like the document.
No, all of that is in our system. And so it all
But you
goes
don't,
into
you
the
don't
system.
check it though, right? Like you're not like hand like, oh, let me make sure that this,
No.
utility bill looked, whatever.
No, absolutely not. It's all in there. Then I mail merge it, I print it out, and we get to start playing with
Okay.
cards.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
So like a little bit of perspective from softball. Right now, our board is pretty small and we're really busy and we're really active and we're constantly working. We're in all-star season. We're also coaches. Everybody on the board has a kid on the team, so we're just really active. We had a meeting the other night and we're like, okay, if we were to selectively separate ourselves from rec, what would that look like? And we asked Mel, so we're thinking in every direction, how can we make this program the best that it could possibly be? And so we're open to that conversation too. And she gives us her perspective, a list of items that she does, and we look at it and like, well, that's a lot of stuff that we would have to take on. We're not at capacity. There's absolutely no way we could take on that role right now. We're already so busy with managing the teams, and softball's a little bit more dynamic because it takes a lot of equipment and it takes a lot of field work. And so we are really aware that there's absolutely no way we could take on that massive side of things, even if we wanted to. And we want to, we can't, you know what I mean? So we're reliant on them for that portion of things, almost, entirely. We would have to work for years to try to solicit help for our board to grow before we could do that. And that is a pain in the neck. We're trying, we're doing as much advertising as we can. We're communicating with the parents. We're doing like newsletters and stuff to try to get the involvement, try to get people to come on board with us. We've successfully gained like 2 this year, which is awesome. But I mean, we would need to almost double our board to take on the role that they're doing. So even if we wanted to do that, we wouldn't be able to do it for another, 5-10 years down the road, because it's just the state. I think you mentioned like volunteer work isn't quite what it was back like when I was a kid. Parents just aren't doing it anymore. And we're trying to make it more fun for them. We're trying to make it more rewarding. We're trying to show them like the value that it brings to the program and to their kids and get them more involved, but it's not going to happen overnight. There's absolutely no way we could grow our volunteers or our board in a short amount of time. So
A ton of capacity building that would have to happen.
there'd be a ton. I fully support that comment, because in soccer, because I've seen the range of it for so many years, when my olders were little, there was a lot more parent involvement in the classrooms, in the schools, in sports, everywhere. Now it's pulling teeth to get people to support these. They'll come for a little bit, but they can't make that full commitment, which would be a board position or something like that.
we have to like actually make it mandatory for our parents as coaches, like you have to do this, and still you probably get 50% people that actually do the job that you ask them to. So it's super hard.
Yeah, like your, the preseason drive-through barbecue, right? You had a bunch of volunteers there, right?
That was,
Okay,
that was
like
my team.
8 volunteers
That
there.
was like
Yeah,
4
but
of
that's
my-
still significantly more numbers than we can get to show up to a meeting, right?
It's
You got,
true,
like,
but
2
how many
people who
teams
showed
did
up.
we have? And literally there was like 4 parents, all from my team,
Absolutely.
and then the rest were board members, and that's
It's because McKenna's very scary. She threatened them all. No, I'm just
Do you
kidding.
find that folks are more interested in like, if you say like, hey, we're having a specific field day or something, show up on this day, or is it just like,
it's gonna take so much rebuilding. I don't know how it got to where it is now, but it takes a lot of rebuilding and the right people in the right places on the board that can actually get people to do stuff for them. So we're starting like as close to home as possible. So with the board, just trying to create a really good little group of people, and hopefully that starts to trickle out to the rest of the community in the softball world at least. But
thank you for doing that. Yeah, it's not easy.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, you guys are killing it. This is the first softball season I've enjoyed in years. I appreciate it.
All right, number 3, Everest Park tree update.
Love this tree.
You are welcome to stay for everything you want to participate in, and it's okay. And
They might want to hear about gophers.
I do.
Definitely, that's the other part of why I guarantee you. Charlie might walk in just for that one. But it's, if you get up and leave, nobody, Parks and Rec wish list is, and we can talk about that. But what I'm saying is if you need to leave, it's okay. There won't be any hard feelings, but I'd love to see you stay the whole time.
So Justin has been updated. We actually included some correspondence we had with the property owner that we're working with in the packet, which I've attempted to bring up, but is in one of those tabs, and then like tomorrow there's gonna be 47 of that. But just real quickly, Justin, maybe you can just update the most recent correspondence.
Yeah, you all recall the tree that we're talking about in the backyard or neighbor over at Evers, and so we've continued communication with the homeowner, and as you can see, we sent out a letter out to the resident looking for a pledge of commitment. Before we were going to move forward with spending any funds allocated in the 26-27 budget, we were looking for that assurance that she's fully committed to moving forward under salt line adjustment. She has, we've spoken quite a bit, and even this morning we were talking again, and it seems that her concerns or questions have subsided, or she's completed her, some degree, her investigation, committing, and she has over the phone this morning, I don't have it in hand, but over the phone this morning, she was saying she was gonna go ahead and sign and send that pledge of commitment to us. She had investigated if her property may be reassessed as a part of this lot line adjustment, and she may have her property taxes increase. The county spoke to historically that would, if there was going to be an increase to her property taxes, that would be associated with just that kind of undeveloped grassy, the difference, the addition of square footage, and it wouldn't be necessarily reassessing her entire property.
Yeah.
So she felt that was something that she felt good about, gave her some reassurance moving forward. And so at this time, she's going to be signing that pledge of commitment. We should receive that here in the following, soon. We should receive that soon, and begin the next steps.
So once we have assurances that she's ultimately this will be kind of a waste of effort if she says I'm not willing to sign the application. So because obviously she's one of the parties that would be affected by the lot line adjustment. So once we have that assurance, we'll move forward with doing the survey work that's necessary and then submitting the application through the county planning department to do the lot line adjustment. And she'll be a party to that effort. And so we want to make, before we spent the money to do that, we wanted to make sure she's on board. And it sounds like she's expecting to be so. So we'll keep you posted. This is not going to be a lickety split thing. It's a county planning process. It's not terribly complicated, but even simple things can take many months at the county planning calendar.
Good job. Thank you for.
It's got to work for both of us through
Yeah.
this, and so, yeah, we continue to have those conversations and provide reassurance.
Now she'll have a nice new truck.
And a little bit more popular.
Yeah. Okay, great. Moving on to gopher control. So this item we had talked about, during the, site visit at German. We, we're talking about the maintenance of the fields. And so I just wanted to know a little bit about what we've done in the past and what we can continue to sort of like experiment with to get.
This is the same stuff I was on the committee the year before last year, right? Okay.
So gopher problems are not new.
Yeah,
To your point.
We've not eradicated them.
Well, that wasn't my point. My point is this is the same product that
Oh,
we
yeah,
had
yeah,
discussed in the initial implementation, not last year, but the year before.
You
Yes,
might see some photos.
I can't pull them up.
So I-
So
On your phone.
I got
what we wanted to do specific was when we took the committee on a tour, I think the consensus was, wow, the gopher damage is still pretty apparent and concerning. And so we asked Justin to kind of, at the time, Justin couldn't attend that tour, to kind of brief us on what are we doing right now? What's the prognosis going forward? And that's.
Yeah, I'm sorry for not being available to that tour, and I wish I could bring up these photos for everyone. But, you know, there's been a combination of efforts by folks over the years. There was, I believe, a soccer association.
You guys paid for, I think you paid for Bethel, right?
Yeah.
German Park.
And that was with contracted services, using Apex.
Yeah.
And so, and TCSD park staff, and utility staff were also going through and, using different types of measures to take care of, gophers. The photos, what I wanted to what I was trying to, convey here is at German, for instance, because that's where your tour recently was had. At German, we have an easy flow device that's installed over at German Park, and it uses a particular product called Critter Max. Sorry. And so then that, you know, we've had some interest by folks as to
Is that
what the
the
active
stakes
agreement.
you're talking? Stakes?
No, we're gonna get
The
there
first
though.
product, it's
We're gonna get-
castor oil, basically.
But
Yeah,
where
castor oil.
the Easy Flow is installed in the ground?
Yeah, it is broadcasted through the irrigation system.
Oh, okay.
And it's not just the Critter Max. We use several different products for opening up the soils and for fertilizing. We use the Easy Flow for, but in particular for gopher control, we use Critter Max. And it's all natural. It's used in school districts. It's approved for use, and it's not toxic. It's castor oil as mentioned. And so it just deters gophers from coming into the premises altogether. It's not a one-stop shop. It's not a kind of an end-all sort of answer. So we use a multi-prong, that integrated pest management program that we've spoken about in the past through strategic planning. And so we try and limit the amount of baits or toxic sort of chemicals in our parks altogether. There's dogs and other park goers that are using our facilities, so we try and be conscientious about what we're using in the parks and who could be exposed to different chemicals and compounds. So what I have listed underneath the Critter Max for those of you who are scrolling through is a compound that we're no longer using, and that was a Wilco zinc kind of a pellet that was put into this tool, this adapter, and that was pushed underground. And then, so it wasn't anything left above ground, but it's administered through this tool, through this device, and this pellet is then left underground. The gophers eat it, they pass away, and we try and keep other animals from digging those gophers who have passed away back up. But we've tried to get away from this so we don't have the issue, the conflict altogether, and so we don't have to manage it. So what you'll see then at the bottom is the use of these gopher hawks. And maybe there's a first photo of the gopher hawk kind of close up. When it is actuated below ground, you'll see there's a little kind of a trigger.
We're talking about this thing that looks like a scary pogo?
No,
That's what
that's the dispenser for the bait.
Yeah, that's what we've kind of.
I saw
Yes, have you
the,
seen
I
this?
saw the,
Yeah.
saw the end result, Googling it,
Yeah, they did a good job.
snaps up a gopher and not having a good day.
They only work within the run.
Yeah, no, you gotta get it in
Funnel.
there to run through it. Yeah.
Okay.
But they do work.
So this is the Critter Max that we would.
Yeah.
Flares and shovels.
Through the irrigation.
So I
system.
just found out,
Oh, yeah.
This is the.
Done lots-
we
done
no
lots of
longer
Yes,
years.
use-
that's the pellet
My day.
that was administered. with the
Damon
soil.
Garcia,
Yes,
playing it
so
slow.
then this
Like,
these are gopher hawks.
I don't know, little bombs under the ground, like blow them all up.
Yeah, I
But
saw
then, like, those park
it.
rangers,
I see like on like vineyards, like they just put a ton of propane or stuff
This-
under there and
This
just
is spring loaded.
propane off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So a gopher hawk is a.
Golf course.
Right to sprinklers though.
Oh, sorry. yeah.
blowing them up.
The entire run.
So again, apologize for the technological challenges we're having. The gopher hawk is a non-chemical device that we utilize. And actually, that's the same tool that Apex Pest Control was using both at Evers and German Park a couple of years ago.
It's mechanical.
To get them in
It's-
the path of those things?
It is, well, and we're able to locate, you can see the activity and go right in, expose those
Like a trap?
tunnels, if you will, and then drop those gopher hawks in. What I wanted to update, they do, yeah. What I wanted to update everybody with is that we lost a second park staff, our second park maintenance worker back in December. And so there were several months there. We were just, I think we were just starting to gain some ground by having both of our park staff focus on gopher hawks and setting up those traps on a daily basis. And so there were some months that we didn't have that second staff. And so we're happy to, to bring on Eric Jackson is on with us and helping out Dustin in the parks. And so Eric is back, or our park staff are back up to setting 30 gopher hawks in our parks a day. And so, for our staff keep track of how many gophers they get a day, a week, a month, and it's pretty impressive. It's a multi-pronged approach to trying to take care of gophers. And so we're trying different methods. We're trying to take care of the issues and repair it afterwards.
Last year.
Yeah. I would be interested too to hear from from the associations.
The soccer, there's been a mild improvement.
But it's a
It's
constant
still-
discussion.
It's still still a problem, or a significant problem, and we've been at soccer games, sitting on the sidelines, and watching the gopher pop up right next to us, and it's like, constantly, you talked
Just
about
put a
the
cone over
coaches, staff, working on.
Happened to me last week at Flag.
It seems like they just like this area for whatever reason.
No,
They're very friendly.
We keep growing their food for them.
Yeah, we had just had that park, that second park staff for 6 months period of time, just starting to, I think, to get our routine down and trying to take care of
Get
these
ahead of it.
gophers. And then we had this kind of lapse as support, and so we're just getting back out there and getting those gopher hawks, trying to improve and keep everybody safe out there.
So, from your perspective, the gopher hawks are an effective method for mitigation, but we just sort of need to, now that we have the dedicated staff, we can sort of tackle it again. The gopher hawks are sufficient, or are
The
there other
critter-
things?
The Critter Max is for changing conditions in the soil to try and keep them from coming in altogether. Those gopher hawks it's kind of nice. It's kind of validating. You get a gopher at the end of these traps.
Dead gopher.
They're spring loaded, and when that trigger goes off, they indicate the turn color. And, you pull it out and you've got this gopher on the other end. And they're keeping track of their tallies. I
Do
don't.
the parks need to be closed when they are being fed?
Typically, they put flags out and they try and monitor, they try and indicate where those hawks are and put flags out to try and keep folks safe. So it's easy
Yeah,
for
they
them.
can't be like, they couldn't be sitting in the field of play during the game, because they
Right.
stick up out of the ground.
No,
So they're
pretty
like,
obvious.
yeah, they are obvious, but you can't use them everywhere all the time.
And are we only using them on German on the playing field, or are we also using them
everywhere.
on the grass closer to the play structure?
Yeah,
Over there by that fence?
Should be by their days.
And so is it safe for people to utilize that part of the lawn there if they're,
If a park staff is present, if it's inserted and set, and then flagged, and then we have a park staff there monitoring it, I think it's pretty.
I
so
mean,
they wouldn't be set up without park staff being on site?
No, they're left when nobody's there.
The
They're,
snappy bits underground.
yeah, it's what you end up with is this post that sticks up out of the ground. So it's a sort of if you could trip
Being
over
out
it,
there, yeah,
yeah, but it's not gonna bite you, because the part that gets the gopher is buried.
okay. Nothing's gonna,
Yeah. there's no, and it's, the only way it's obvious if it's been tricked and has a gopher is it just pop.
Oh, okay.
Right, so
Like
like,
a
and
pressure
it's
cooker type,
similar, yeah.
got it.
There seems to be less issues too with this approach than using a bait that is somewhat is toxic and ends up killing the gophers and possibly
We have,
harming an animal.
I think the park users have changed over time. And we have a lot more prevalence of dog users. They're a heavy daytime user of the park, and it used to be, 10 years ago and then beyond, our parks were technically closed to dogs. And so we weren't concerned about pet health. And now we have, dog owners very concerned about what are we spraying, what are we applying at the parks? What are we using to kill the gophers? Because they don't all, their dogs might get it. A lot of people let their dogs off leash, even though that's prohibited. And they catch a gopher or dig up a gopher. And they're concerned about what we're using to kill the gopher.
Our senior parks maintenance staff has been in talks with Gopher Hawk because they know that we're using so many. And they were looking to sponsor our parks with them. They're about $45 a pop. So we're using a considerable amount.
Yeah.
And communicating back to Gopher Hawk, the success and those sorts of things with
Well, that would
these.
be a nice, interesting photo op.
Yeah. There was lots of photos they wanted me to share on this topic, but I
saw them.
oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I Googled Gopher Hawk and it seems like it'll.
Our staff has many kind of trophies, if you will.
Happy I did
Yeah.
not.
But nonetheless, these gophers seem, they're busy
Yeah.
and they reproduce and they do. But I think gophers are a prevalent issue in the area,
Yeah, not just at ours.
not just in my yard, for sure.
And, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you also just for the context about, how we were down at park staff and how that impacted maybe some of the ground we were able to cover and then lose, so to speak. Okay, great. Templeton, or Community Center Templeton Charitable Women's Club Agreement.
Okay, we put this item on, there's been some loose discussion amongst folks about, the arrangement we have with the community center and the costs of the community center. And then recently we distributed the 1994, I believe, or 5 agreement between the Templeton Charitable Women's Club and the community center. And the nuts and the bolts of it are the district and the women's club entered into an agreement where the women's club donated the building to the district. And that agreement had various provisions about what was gonna happen during this sort of, I'll say, transitional period. And then once it became the district's, the women's club has a right to use the facility at no charge, basically at its, whenever it wishes, more or less. And then the district was gonna use it for community benefit during all the other times. And I think the issues that have come up are, over time, there's been less demand for the community center, and there's now 30 some years later, there's a lot of other places in and around the community that are maybe viewed as more desirable to host things like retirement parties and birthday parties and other celebrations, things that are like at a winery or maybe in someone's yard that maybe didn't exist in the 90s. And what we found is we have a, kind of a core group of users of the community center, a couple of churches, a service club that's uses it. The district uses it a little bit. Our senior club meets in there. We occasionally host meetings, et cetera. But they're not, those sort of social gatherings are not a key user. We do a few funerals and a couple of other kind of odds and ends kind of things, but it generally doesn't get a ton of use. And so, without doing a lot of real detailed analysis, I'd say in the big picture, its rental income isn't fully offsetting its expenses. Maybe in a given year it does, but when you factor in replacement costs and major maintenance and deferred maintenance and repairs, it doesn't. So, because we do have, even though there's no mortgage on it, you have utility costs and cleaning costs and those kinds of things, whatever. So I wanted to put this agreement in here for 2 reasons. One, I think there was some, discussion about, hey, is there a way out of this arrangement? And my reading is, not in the agreement, there isn't, it's in perpetuity, and there's not a automatic, way, so both parties would have to agree to a change of the arrangement in order for the district to get out of the agreement. That's my read on it, and we could try that, although I don't know what would motivate the women's club to sincerely engage, because they went into this knowing they couldn't, they got out of owning the building because they didn't think they could afford it, but they're getting all the benefits of the building. And then the second issue, and maybe the one that's, that we can talk about, is beyond just providing the women's club the building, access to the building, we provide other services to the women's club that we don't do to any other user. And this may be out of habit or practice, and I don't really know when it started, but for the women's club, we set up and tear down the building, how they wish. Tables, chairs, whatever. And it's not a ton of work, but it's because of the other users of the building, it has to be done in certain timeframes. We also do things like hang banners when they have special events, and they're a kind of a needier group, more demanding about, just getting the AC just right, or cleaning up a little, something that may not be ideal. And so they call on our crew to do that, and we've made a habit of doing that, and so they're accustomed to that service. That is not called for in the agreement, we realized, and
How often are they meeting?
a dozen times a year, maybe. Mostly once a month, and then a few times some special events. Does that sound about right? Dozen times a year?
Yeah.
Maybe 10 to 15, maybe.
So is the overall goal to just, it seems like it's not a huge advantage to have, with the goal to be just get out of it, and is get it out of it, give it back to the women's club?
I don't know. So this is informational. I don't know what there hasn't been, this committee or the board hasn't stated, there's just been inquiries about what are our options.
Well, I think we talked about this a while back.
Yeah, well, we have some, it's an expensive building to maintain.
Was there
And
an oven that went bad in it?
yeah, there's an oven.
Did the oven get replaced?
It
Cause we
did.
talked about that a while back.
It did.
That was,
Okay, so some of the more hospitality that we provide for their meetings is not required.
The agreement is silent on it. I think it just became practice.
Yeah,
And I guess I would argue that, look, it's not in the agreement. Maybe it's inappropriate because these are taxpayer dollars that we're spending. Although my belief is we've been doing so for decades. For many years. We could, if the committee sees value in engaging the women's club, we could request to meet with them, talk about the big picture a little bit. I don't expect that to go very far, but we can also say, look, we're evaluating everything we're doing, and we, on those 12 or 15 times a year, it's taking us 2 people, probably an hour to set up and tear down, that kind of thing, and they have other, if the setup isn't perfect, they're calling us and having us get somebody else out there to kind of rearrange things or whatever. And again, I'm not saying this is an overwhelming task, but because of the other users of the building, it's not like you can just set this up when it's convenient
right.
and take it down the next day. There might be another user in there at 7 at night. So you've got to take it down when the event is over, because we essentially reset the room.
Right.
We clear the room every time that's kind of, we sort of reset the room, and so a new user comes in and they set it up the way they wish. So that's the challenge with the women's club, and I think that would be Justin's request is, look, if we can get out of this setup tear down, there's a little gain, little cost savings, time savings.
I think at a minimum, that seems fairly reasonable, and I could see a group of ladies not wanting to do that, and in their mind, well, we donated this building 30 years ago or whatever it is, but to your point, it's not in the contract, and it's like, hey, we've been helping you out a long time. You guys can still use the building per the agreement, but these are the rules everyone else follows. You just don't have to pay for the building. I think that's, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
I
that's
think like a
reasonable.
conversation about
Kind of reset that a little bit.
expectations.
Like I said, I'm sure this was something, innocent, right? Like we, and we want to be helpful, and quite honestly, we want to be helpful. But at the same time, we also want to look out for the public's resources, and these are public dollars. These are taxpayer, when we send our crew over, those are taxpayer funded positions, and those are
I think it's appropriate, given that we're already having conversations about efficiency and the deficit and all of these other things.
Well, how many man hours do you think are spent per time, like true man hours? 2 per month, 4 per month? I'm just curious, because I did it at 30 hours per year. At 31 years at $50 an hour burden cost is $46,000 over the course of 30 years that the district spent just setting up and tearing down for them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think I think sometimes it's probably 15 minutes for 2 people to set up and 15 minutes to take down, but other times there might be 3 callbacks.
And that's the thing, because the staff are stopping what they're doing, typically in the
Yeah,
past, are
come
stopping what
over.
they're
Not
doing.
okay.
And come, getting off the mower and then driving in their vehicle, back to the
That's
site
not
and then
appropriate.
taking care of whatever that particular issue is,
And
going back
if
out.
there's wrong, move it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because historically it's been the park staff that do that.
Yeah.
So I just took that on for them a couple months ago. Which is frankly, we're next door, and so a little bit that makes sense, right? It makes absolutely no sense getting off a mower at a park, driving to where I am next door, right? To go move a table, right? Or set up a table or whatever, change out the paper towels, right? So now they just come and get me or John or Bree, whoever's over there. But it's still, again, interrupting whatever is going on. It's a little less intense. For years, it was park staff for years, decades, right?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I don't know if we need to take like an official pulse check, but I think.
What
it
do
would
we
be
do? I think I can say, look, this committee's studying all the things that we're doing, and we realize that one was the committee, this is kind of a money loser, it sort of is. And we're evaluating options and first thing we realize is like the agreement doesn't call for this extra effort. And therefore, we're looking to end it. We don't even make this available at a cost to others.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's really like
Folks that actually
the
rent the
building
building.
comes as it comes, you check out a key and you're on your own. I mean, it's not quite that bad, but I mean, we wanna be notified if there's like a water leak.
Fire?
and- Yeah, something, but really.
Yeah,
it's-
but they
it's-
just, they get a free space because they donated a building 30 years ago. That's more than fair, in my mind.
So, we could
They can
have
go
the
on their
conversation, if it goes poorly, I'll let you know.
Do they have like a?
Get some young.
Yeah, I'm sure they have
To help them out.
I don't know who the person is right now, but there is an organization, it's an ongoing organization, I mean, there's a group.
Take Naveed with you. if you need it.
Okay, the other item that we wanted to talk about really in the community center is just kind of a warning. I think we had some HVAC challenges and we had it repaired. But during the course of the repair, the HVAC contractor recommended that the HVAC unit be replaced. But that's a potentially pretty expensive item. Let's say we're round numbers 20 grand. But in all honesty, there's 2 full HVAC systems in the building, and I believe we can confirm that they're both from the same vintage.
They are.
They're lightly original. 90s vintage. And so it's not surprising that they may be due for a replacement, but we kind of wanted to warn you that we've had this repair, we're gonna continue to investigate it. It's functional again. It would be my recommendation that we do not treat the HVAC repair as, or replacement as some sort of emergency measure. The building doesn't get a lot of use, and quite honestly, there's not much in there that's super essential. I mean, there's some meetings and whatever, we can continue to kind of limp it along. But prepare when the time comes for something in the neighborhood of 40 grand. So again, we talked a couple years ago about a Doven. That was like 5 grand.
Yeah.
This is like 40 grand. That's about 2 years worth of income that the building produces.
We'll make sure we, bring that up.
So I'm not even inclined to, and so this, to necessarily, run and jump and to deal with this thing, because it's, again, because the building is mostly vacant.
Yeah, paying
Seems like it'd
40K
be so
for a
much
bill.
better to off it and have it be someone else's problem. If you could, I don't know how I gotta read the agreement, but
Or find a way for it to generate rent.
Well,
yeah,
it's interesting to that 1.3 of the agreement where it specifically states that under B, I'm sorry, rather A, that, to avoid high costs and such operations, maintenance and repair. And we're finding like the HVAC system that it's original and it's gonna be very expensive to replace. And this is one of the reasons why they were looking to hand it over to Templeton. It's, expensive.
Yeah, anyway, so the recommendation is not that we, treat again, the HVAC system's working, although I think we're in a vulnerable state. We might find more issues where it's not either running ideally or working properly. There are 2 units, both of them cool like half the room. So it's unlikely
Would you
that they
replace
both.
one and then the other, or you have?
I suppose you could, but I think if you're looking at it from the perspective of age and where they both get
Reaching
off.
the end.
Yeah, they're at the end of life.
We asked if we could combine the systems as well and kind of replace it with one larger, and found that the size of that facility requires 2 independent, and that's why it was designed
That's why.
that way. That's reason why there's 2. The thought in the past was maybe there was one, it kind of lost functionality, we replaced. We added a second unit, maybe to kind
Right.
of supplement or help out things, but it's all original, it's all designed that way and very expensive to replace.
Okay, great. Now, Mel, can you give us a Parks and Rec wish list, please? This in part I had wanted to discuss because since now I've been attending Templeton Rec Foundation meetings. I just wanted everyone to be aware and on the same page about when we have fundraisers that benefit, what are we fundraising for? And so having a list of needed items, I think would be helpful for us all to understand.
Absolutely. So it's kind of a bummer you guys can't see it.
Yeah.
I'm really bummed.
It was attached.
It was, yeah.
It was attached.
It is
You have
I can send you a link. So the first thing on there is we need to replace the golf cart. We expect to be approximately $5,000. It helps for, essentially ADA, helps get folks around in a park that is less accessible, specifically at Evers. And it's also helpful for like quick runs down to field 3, like for tonight, for example, we've got flag football happening on field 3 and we gotta carry 8 pylons down there. And it's nice to just put them on the golf cart, drive it right down. It's also a lightweight, vehicle that doesn't do damage to the turf, when we're out there. So that's lovely. We got a Kubota, vehicle, like a UTV with a dump bed on there. That would be specific to park staff. I think it would, those things, it looks like it would be street legal, so they'd probably just store it at the, out at the, Creekside,
Yeah.
and then bring it in as needed. It's also a lightweight, utility vehicle that could help with spreading sand around, to help with leveling projects and things like that. And carry all of their extra materials so that it doesn't have a negative impact on the golf cart that is typically stored at the park, right?
That's one of the problems with the golf cart is it gets, right now, it's used by both maintenance staff and moving people, and I'm not sure those are necessarily compatible uses.
We had a turf renovation machine, a Clopping Hardy machine that was actually just purchased by TRF, but found out this morning that it's in Arizona.
Oh,
So it was supposed to be delivered,
Yeah.
they lost it, it's in Arizona, they found it, it's on its way.
It's shocking
So-
how that,
It is incredible. So that was purchased in part with a grant from the Justin Community Grants Foundation. And then TRF funded the rest of it. So I think they got some sort of, it was essentially matching. So 12,000 from the grants and I think another 10 at least from TRF. Gopher smoker. Maybe we can get them addicted to something else.
this is different than,
So this is a
we're
carbon
using?
monoxide, it's, some of this was put on by park staff, but this is a carbon monoxide smoker, and so you stick it in their runs, stick it down into and then just smoke. it.
gas mount.
Alright, yeah. Light it on fire.
It works, gas and smoke and putting things in the work fairly well.
Again, with that integrated pest management program, it's another, on that multi-pronged
Yeah.
approach, it's just another tool that we can try to be more effective with taking care of gophers.
That one's
I'm all
about
for that one.
$5,000. The next couple things on there, skate park benches and then some picnic tables out at German and the skate park. Those were actually budgeted for the upcoming fiscal year, 26-27. So we'll actually be purchasing those through our operating funds. Evers bleachers upgrading to ADA. We need, ideally, we get 2 of them, although I think we were able to get through the permitting on at least Shelby Field, Field 1. The bleachers at Field 2 were never permitted, and they are not ADA accessible, so those will need to go away, however temporarily.
It's more complicated than that too. We need to be able to provide an ADA pathway.
Pathway to,
Which will depend on how far we get with the Evers permit project, but it could be like $100,000 to make the pathway to the,
right,
to the bleachers, so it's not like just the facility. That's why we can't.
because
get
it's
that.
gotta be ADA.
Because that's why
And there's a
that's why we
grade.
can't get those bleachers permitted, it's because there's no ADA accessibility to them.
Ideally, we replace at least the bleachers at Field 1, Shelby Field, for about $10,000. Delivery costs can be upwards of $1,000 for those, cause they are large. And then, I put on there another bleacher shade structure for Field 2. If we're able to keep those bleachers, if we're able to get those, it would be nice to have some sort of shade out there. That's the tune of about $15,000. I'm working with SLO County permitting, so we're all a little gun shy with that one. Contracting some services for a field leveling project, which would be incredible, and this actually goes along with, if you skip the playground equipment, it goes along with the turf and irrigation replacement. Those are significant costs. I should have put that on there, but they're upwards of $750,000. $1 million project, right? When all is said and done, to level the turf, replace it all, change out the irrigation to make it, sort of what we need it to be.
Would we do that while we have, is that something that we would do?
So that is on.
So, yeah, so it was identified in the we had a company evaluate Evers Park, and they prioritized a list of improvements. And it's low, it's not one of the high priority items that's being tackled as part of the Evers Sports Park Improvement Project, but it's identified as a need. But it's about, on its own, it's about $1 million. Cause that basically would replace, all the field space.
Brand new grass.
Get your checkbook out.
And that is not, the Evers Park design as it stands right now.
It's not covered.
It's not part of this phase of that. Yeah. There were several other projects that were in that, actually, we're coming to them as well. That were not identified as like feasible either by cost or not as, the highest priority. Either by, not deemed highest priority, either by the district or the public, right? And we did some public opinion surveys.
And doing this, field work would not, destroy or, disrupt the completion, like when it, whatever the design, when it's completed at Evers.
For the current project that we have? No, they'd be completely separate. Frankly, if we continue on the path of more fieldwork projects at Evers, I would imagine, similar to when you're redoing your house, you wanna do the floors last, right? Because of all the impact of all the heavy machinery, right? So playground equipment, that is highly variable. It depends on what we put out there. If we do similar to what we were talking about at German Park when we did the tour out there, this is at Evers, but we also could do it, we also need to do some replacing at German Park. It is intensely variable. It could be anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million, depends on what we want to put in. I think we can get away with some decent structure at German Park for around 150, based on what I've spoken to folks, some of my playground people. And then Evers is another beast. It is tied to what we're doing is the park improvement plan for this particular phase. It's really gonna depend because that's all been frankly slated for permitting. It just depends on what we can get out of the companies, so. But I expect that to be a pretty significant cost at Everest too, especially because we've designed it to be along that hillside. Some of it will be relatively inexpensive. We're talking about putting turf as slides, like a grass slide, similar to Sinsheimer, right? Just bring your cardboard and go slide down. We'll see what ends up happening with that based on our alt ads for the thing. I'm gonna skip the turf and irrigation. We just talked about that. These next three items were on the park improvement plan. So the numbers are taken from them as well. As a reminder, that was adopted in 2021. So these numbers will go up.
Well, that add 2 light poles one, this is what I do for work. I'd be happy to give you a look at that one and give you an estimate that would be like probably accurate. Just, I could do that and, I could work that up an hour or whatever, just if you're interested.
Awesome.
Cause that seems for 2 light poles, even if they're the tall ones, that seems extraordinarily high. I'm doing 3 lighting projects currently right now.
For field lights?
Well, I've been field light ones, these are, 30-foot poles, but it's still 2 lights at 75 grand a light seems on the higher side of life. And I just did a lighting field stadium lighting project, so.
Cool. So revenue estimated at 155. Cause if you look at field 3, in fact, you could come out and see it tonight at about 8:30 while we're in the end of flag football games. The northernmost part of that field is rather dark and they're still playing. Same thing happens to soccer during All-Star season. It's dark at 5, right? And so we've got teams out there and they kind of have to utilize the closer portion of the park because it does not light enough with the field. Adding an arrival plaza to Evers, which is in front of the snack bar, just sort of a leveled, concreted, new picnic benches and a shade structure and just like a hello, you're here. It's very pretty. That was with all of the demo and everything slated at 260. And adding fitness area or even we see them at the lake park, right? Just like workout stations throughout the park. That was part of what was listed in the park improvement plan. That was to the tune of about $90,000. There's some O&M on there that we put on. Annually, we spend around $11,000 between seed and amendments to the soil. That is continuous and ongoing and not likely to go down, but it is typically budgeted in our R&M or our supplies side of the budget. I put on Gopher Control Services because that would be helpful, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. McKenna would like to see more sprinklers, specifically on the dirt. I think all of softball would like the sprinklers on the dirt replaced so that we can actually use them to water the dirt. I know it sounds silly, but you want to water the dirt before you can prep the fields, and as you're prepping fields, because it just kind of keeps all that dust down and it keeps the dirt from degrading.
Okay, what are these in order of like priority or?
No, I think they're in order of what we came up with. So
And also
We could
drafted
put them
to
in
be like
priority
a
order.
living document that you could add,
exactly.
that folks could, it was drafted as, this is a starting point. We tried to capture some items here, but looking to add to it, certainly.
Just curious on these larger projects, what's the CSD, like, what are the alt options for like grants and those type of monies? Are they, I'm not versed in what you guys, I know the city of Paso Robles goes out for grants and different things.
So we're eligible, we're eligible for some grants, as a matter of fact, for the Everest Sports Park Improvement Project, the one that we're in the
Design phase.
permitting phase right now.
Yeah.
We've got like $300,000 in grant funds that we received to help contribute towards that. I think, and Mel maybe you could speak up on some, but a lot of the projects are based on helping disadvantaged communities, and we are not one. We have disadvantaged people living in Templeton, but we don't qualify. There really aren't neighborhoods in Templeton where you could pick up a disadvantaged community as the state defines it. That's been a real hurdle for actually a lot of funding sources.
Interesting.
Okay,
Okay.
a lot of the state funded grants, the city of Paso got one to build the
Infinity Roundabout, is that the one?
Yeah, I was thinking of the new the bike thing that they built, right? It's like a little, whatever. Arnie Schwartz, anyway, a lot of parks things, right?
Yeah, oh, I see.
They're tied to, they have this like, community fact finder tool that is used on State Parks website, which is, you know, Prop 68 and all of that. If you are currently the, low income, priority goes to low income, and this pin drop, you have to find somewhere with 32,000 median income, right? In order to be eligible or to be prioritized, right? And there are plenty of places in California that fit that, right?
Yeah.
Templeton is not one.
No.
The lowest I can find anywhere in Templeton that will also encompass our project area, I think is 68 or 70,000 median income per year.
Which is low for here. They should have a metrics based on where you actually live, because 70 grand.
We are eligible for some private funds, private grant funds. The rec department also receives grant funds for installation of water fountains at the parks. So we're working on that right now
What about
to,
federal ADA type stuff, like some of these paths and stuff? I'm just,
So we explore that too.
I'm not an
So
expert.
as a non-city, we're not a direct CDBG recipient, so we have to go through the county, and then for about the past decade, the county has kind of pushed all of the CDBG money into homeless services. So there is a process each year that the county provides, but it's ran by the county homeless services folks. So really, it's now targeting, you know, pedestrian improvements for homeless, essentially community development block grants for homeless. But you're right, ADA improvements would normally qualify, like ADA sidewalks would be a CDBG eligible project, but because we would be dependent on being a subrecipient from the county, they decide where the priorities.
Oh,
so it's getting creative with funding sources.
sure, no, I understand. I was just curious about, because I know with the city, some of it, but I'm just curious from a CSD, and that makes sense that you're reliant on some of these funds to come from the county.
Yeah, I'll give you another example so we collect fees for new development. We call them development impact fees.
Sure.
They can only be used to expand services, not to replace items. We could use them, for example, we're using them to do this improvement project where we're adding a playground and adding a walkway and those sorts of things. You can use them for some of these items, like we could use them for adding lighting structures at the parks. It's expanding the amount of lit space, but we couldn't use it for replacing turf because that doesn't really expand the facility. The county, because we're not a city, we do not collect what some people might refer to as Quimby fees. Quimby fees are what subdivisions pay for parkland acquisition. The county is the recipient of that. Quimby fees can be used to upgrade or actually replace components in parks. The county decides where to spend that money. And so the county collects it for projects in Templeton, but doesn't necessarily always spend it in Templeton.
Is the county at least somewhat generous with Templeton, or do they just take the money and?
I would say not generous at all.
Okay, so they're like, yeah, we're gonna spend it on what we wanna spend it on. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't,
I mean, I
take
don't
my comment
wanna put
but
words
to-
in your mouth, but I
yeah.
just wanted to see
no,
where the
it's-
temperature was on them spreading the love to this area, considering it's still.
We have to pay the county to run programs at this park for the county residents. So our Concerts in the Park program, which is held at this park, we're paying like $600 a night to the county to rent the park for county residents.
And they do have to be able to defend where their Quimby fees go, right? So they will say, right, they repaved the area in front of the barbecues over there a few years ago, Quimby fees. New bathrooms 10 years ago, Quimby fees, right?
So they just do it when they absolutely have to.
Well,
I think they have a rotation of where it gets spent. The county is divided into different parks districts, right? And so they spent, in the North County District, they spent the Quimby fees at various spaces. But they can also get additional funding from, from say state grants when they drop a pin in the middle of Shandon or
Right.
San Miguel, right? They cannot get it when they drop it in the middle of Templeton. So it also limits some of what they're able to do and willing to do. Historically, Templeton takes care of Templeton, right? So.
Understood.
Question related to, just looking at the wish list, it had sparked in my mind. Is there a skateboard?
Like a skate park.
No, like, do we have like, you know how we have like a soccer board and a soccer?
Oh, no,
Sorry.
no, we have a group of
Skate
people
board.
who, like, for Monster, for example. Which is all different folks at different cities and different public agencies that have skate parks, right? So, and then there's, you know, the Templeton Skate Crew,
Yeah.
right, TSC, that's what they call themselves. That I would lean on, for help with things, they typically, help out with a lot of what's happening at the park, they frankly keep a lot of it clean when it's time to do it. We just had a skate camp that we'll talk about in a bit, Tony Stewart coached it for free, right, so all of that is proceeds, well, and whatever we gave them, a snack and some t-shirts, right? So there's a crew of folks that I lean on when I need help at the skate park.
Okay.
But they're not organized by design. Cause they're skaters.
Yeah,
So
I was about to say that checks out.
they will organize themselves as necessary.
I would be
Job, bro.
interested in seeing this list in terms of priority.
But we're happy to take input on it if you've identified other items, and one of the things that's kind of, that makes the list a little intimidating is some of those are really big items, like, it's really hard to wrap your head around, oh, we're gonna raise money for $1 million turf renovation project, as opposed to, well, that's kind of a big nut to chew,
Yeah.
maybe we could raise money for an item that's $2,500 or
Yeah.
$5,000. And so there are some smaller, more bite-sized, more manageable kind of items that might, maybe it makes more sense to include them in sort of a community wish list. You know, somebody could conceivably say, I'm willing to donate money to get a new golf cart. Not, we haven't had,
Yeah.
And there's also maintenance fees that are associated with all of these things. We get a UTV, we're gonna have to maintain it,
Right.
right? We get a golf cart, we gotta maintain it. And it's not significant at the beginning, it's in the middle and end, right? When we need to replace all the batteries on the golf cart,
just did that.
right? Which are not cheap, so
We
keeping
replaced it
all
with
of that in mind with like the
Lithium
larger.
sodium battery.
Yeah,
It was cheaper.
Okay, thank you.
Customization.
Moving on, programs update. How do you wanna give the committee?
Yes. All right. Soccer. As of 4 o'clock on Thursday, we had 324 kids registered. We took about 50 today, would be my estimation based on what happened, and we have another 3 weeks or so of registration, so. And Templeton is famous for signing up at the last minute. So we'll hit the number that we expect to hit. That's this number is on target.
What's the number, the final number? usually?
Between 700 and 800 typically. The one post-COVID when nobody else was running a program, we hit 9 and it was not manageable. So,
When does registration close?
July 10th.
but it's late after July first.
Late after July
And
1st,
there's a
yes.
fee for that, so.
Sign up
A fee
late.
that we just raised. I don't know what it is, but it kicks in automatically because I set it on the website. Beer run is tomorrow morning. Let's go to flag football. It's tonight. It starts in 10 minutes. But we have senior staff. John's unfortunately away at a funeral today. He'll be back in the morning for the beer run. But it's flag football tonight. We've got a ton of teams out working 5 fields between the 2 we built at German Park and the 3 we've built at Evers. We've got some senior staff starting those games off, which is delightful. So they're going off without a hitch. We'll be turning in their time cards tonight at 9:30 and then going to the beer run. We're meeting at 5 a.m. in my office. I'll see you all there to load up the trucks and everything.
You start drinking beer at 5 a.m.?
We have, no, I am working. I get off at 10 a.m. at Barrel House. Just kidding. We have 100 and somewhere around 160, 170 that were registered as of today. We're expecting the typical number is about 10 to 20 that register day of, depending. I took 4 or 5 phone calls today about can I still register if I just show up? So that is a excellent number. I'm actually pretty excited about it. So beer run will be a rip roaring good time. We've got a bunch of volunteers coming out to help. Thank you very much, all of you. Some of the, young, they're kids, but they're adults that are coming out to volunteer as well. Course marshals, the whole bit. So very exciting. Skate camp, we just finished on Wednesday. It was amazing. Tony Stewart taught it for free. He's part of the Templeton skate crew. I think there were about 15 kids out there. He always brings out a few of his own kids and then, helpers, like big kid helpers. They're fantastic. Scoot camp, we only had 2 kids registered for Scoot camp, which was slated to start on Monday, so we just canceled that. I've been getting a lot of calls and emails about, is this the only one you're doing because we're out of town this week, right? So I think everybody's doing maybe 3, 4th of July vacations or something. So we'll regroup and see if we can move that around. Staying on the skate park trend, we just did Monster in Napomo this past weekend. That was our 5th stop. Nope, that was our 4th stop. Our 5th stop is going to be in Slow for the finale on July 11th. We changed Monster around, so instead of a marathon in the spring, it's 1 a month, and it is really working well for us. So that is lovely. So Slow will finish it up on July 11th. Art class, we have 10 kids signed up, 5 in the early class, 5 in the late class, and that is just divided by age groups. The early class is 4 to 6 year olds, the late class is 6 to 9, 10 year olds, something like that. So we got 10 kids in that. It's going well. They were off last Wednesday. The instructor had her own vacation. So they'll be coming back in on this coming Wednesday, which is a good time to talk about concerts in the park, which are going off crazy well. I think we've had huge audiences this year, which is amazing. A lot of concert goers, and the themes are catching on. I saw a lot of sports jerseys last night. No, I don't know what today is. It's Friday. Saw a lot of sports jerseys on Wednesday. And then the coming one will be on July 1st or whatever it is, the one before the 4th of July. So we are going to use that time to have a representative from the fire department talk about, don't set off fireworks in the park, do it on your private property, and there's some changed repercussions for setting off illegal fireworks, all of that good stuff. It's also theme, very easy to follow, patriotic night, so just bring all your red, white, and blue. I think that'll be nice and simple. The senior club is going really well. We just had our 3rd meeting of the reinvigoration of all this, and there were 10 or 11. We have some pretty good regulars that are showing up. There was, interestingly, at the same time we were hosting senior club, we found out there was some sort of an event in the stars. And so we had someone come out and bring his special telescopes so you could see what was happening in the sky, even though it was daytime. And so we got to see Jupiter pass behind the moon in his telescope. And then he had another cool one that had the right kind of lenses so we could look at the sun. And it was really cool. The seniors dug it. It was really fun. And their choice for that was to have chicken strips. So Abby brought us some chicken strips. They're gonna be dark in July because it's slated for the 3rd Wednesday of every month, and that is the opening day of the fair. So no senior club opening day of the fair. We will still have concerts the opening day of the fair, just not the 2nd week of the fair. And this afternoon, the city of Paso just asked me to be on an interview panel. So this is my way of telling you I will be gone July 7th in the morning. We'll talk about this. So that's the activity update. I don't think I missed anything. Softball All-Stars are killing it. They're going to association championships tomorrow, 8 a.m. in Orchid, hoping to get one of 6, I just found out, 6 berths to get to San Diego State games. It's very exciting. Soccer's up and coming. We'll see.
Attaboy.
That's what I got.
Cool. Future agenda items.
Piece of cake.
So we had,
Thank you.
Thank you. You're my favorite. Tell your sons.
I had just noted that when the board voted to raise the fees, there was a request that we evaluate what those were set at. You know, so sometime before next year, just to do that, probably no urgency on that. And then I was just, you know, what, from the perspective of the committee, what other information do you want us to bring to you or for you to discuss as it relates to this issue of, is there capacity? Is there a way to shift some responsibilities to volunteers for youth sports to create capacity for fundraising or something else? Or are you know enough and we should just agendize that? Because I think ultimately when the board delegated that task to you, this committee probably owes a report back to the board that says, we've evaluated it and here's what we think can happen, or we've evaluated it and we don't think there's capacity or whatever.
I don't know that I have any other questions in terms of information that I need to be provided about either the structure of how we run things or how we utilize other partners. So I don't think that I have any other requests essentially for Mel.
Okay, if it's okay with you, then I'll try to dig up sort of this sort of concept and try to agendize the next, when you next meet, like have a discussion about how you might formulate your conclusions. And you know, obviously if it takes, if during that discussion there's more questions, we can come back and bring you more information. But I'll try to go back through, because I think this kind of started with sort of two different things. The committee was already kind of looking at fundraising, and then the ad hoc committee's recommendations and so forth. And so I just want to be able to close that loop. And
I think the only thing that I'm curious about, and I don't know that this committee is the appropriate forum to explore this question, but it does seem like we've run into this issue a few times about finding community members who are interested and available to really partner with us on programs and initiatives in a meaningful way. So I'm thinking about like how, like initially before I had started attending TRF meetings, the committee and the board had been interested about, oh, you know, how can TRF better support the Parks Department? And now that I've attended a few meetings, I can see that TRF has a capacity issue, and that I don't know, as it currently stands, how much more could be offered in terms of availability and just taking on either more fundraising or some of these things. Now I can see firsthand a little bit of the limitations. It sounds like similar issues are being faced by some of the recreational volunteer boards. And so I don't know if that's something that fits in this committee, but as we're thinking about, you know, how to be more efficient, how to create some more staff time, it seems like, from my perspective right now, we've kind of we've run out of things to check off our list in terms of possibilities in terms of this alleyway. And so I just wonder at some point having a conversation about how to get more community participation, not just in terms of Parks and Rec, but also like for all of our committee meetings and all of the board. And I don't know.
yeah, well, I mean, I think you can have participation, but you really, I think it goes maybe beyond that, because you really say, how do we get people to participate and contribute, right? Like make it different, like help participate in fundraising or something that actually moves the needle.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting, but I think your observation's fair that, yeah, we've got some organizations out there, but they're kind of fledgling. I mean, they're doing what they can. There's not a lot of capacity to take on more. And so I guess part of me, or part of my concern would be realistic about what your expectations are, because if we say well, we're gonna ask TRF to do a fundraiser to put in a new field at Everest Park and we need $750,000. You know, how's that gonna be received? What's the likelihood of that actually happening? You know, like I said, because maybe TRF doesn't have the capacity to put on Living the Dream again. You know. So, yeah, well, let me see if I can figure out a way to come up with an item that allows you to discuss this in more meaningful way and start building towards some sort of report back, because maybe that's part of it, maybe that becomes part of the committee's thing, is that, look, our present organizations, at least as it relates to Parks and Rec, are not robust enough to take on more, and so how do we supercharge that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a conversation that I'd like the rest of the board to be able to participate in. Because I don't think it's an issue that just faces this department or this committee.
I remember a few years ago, Jeff English was sort of spearheading a bit of a community engagement.
Yeah, the board had an ad hoc,
Campaign,
the board
in a
had an ad
sense.
hoc committee,
Yeah.
and
It's an ongoing issue.
yeah, in terms of more of this engagement issue, there was a report that the committee made to the board,
How long ago was that?
probably in 2019.
Is it possible that you could?
Yeah.
Find your-
I think I was on that. So I could dig up some of what we found.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly find what was reported
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to the whole board, yeah.
Thank you. Eric, do you have any thoughts?
Rough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a cultural thing. I mean, like,
I mean, from my perspective is, we only have so much capacity. We're providing a lot for the community. It's just that capacity from the community. They're doing as much as they possibly can. So it's coming back at us, whereas we're providing services as well. And when it comes down to, for instance, like providing the services for Blues Group, that's kind of a sum. That's an easy one we can just, figure out. Is even having that building in our interest.
right.
Those are possibilities. We can start taking a look at what is loss leaders versus what we actually gain from. I mean, we are providing services for the community, and that's important. I don't think we should stop providing these services, but we have to be realistic about it too at the same
The
time.
sustainability. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just as you think about these concepts, and again, we're just kind of brainstorming about what we're talking about next. I want to make sure that we have realistic expectations, and I think one of the concerns that I've had with the concept of, what more can we pass some of these things off to the soccer board, for example, is, you can ask and you can stop doing something, but it may result in the program actually
Going away, yeah.
all failing
Yeah.
before it ever comes back.
Right.
And what it comes, and is that a risk you're willing to take? Or we're willing to take, because, I don't know that that any group out there is prepared to take those things on in short order.
Yeah,
Say for those, it's gonna probably have to sit for a little bit. To your point, it's a 5 to 10 year building period for them to do that, so. Then to take on the ability to take a lot more off that plate.
yeah, I think like I like the conversations that we've had here, because I think it gives me a little bit of perspective to trends that we're seeing overall, in terms of there's not really much more that we can do in terms of relying on other folks, because other folks right now are not positioned to sort of take those roles and responsibilities on. And I think that also is important for the board to like hear us report out, because I think the board should also take that issue, especially as it relates to just like board seats and elections, and all those things are interconnected. That there's not a lot of interest or capacity right now as it exists in terms of community engagement, and how do we address that?
What do you guys think about the fundraiser that they did for the feeding green last year? I know that was really specific to fund that family, but it also did create a big community engagement, and there's still a lot of conversation about it. And I think that was really community building, and people are talking about how can we do that again, but maybe And there's actually a lot of people that volunteered for that because it was like with a purpose.
Right.
And they
Very
knew
clear.
exactly where the value was going to be. And so they were more willing to invest their time, and they put it together quickly. So it was kind of a lower commitment in a sense, like a quick commitment, short term. But as far as community engagement, like community as a whole, so if you get people more excited and kind of that old Templeton feeling, from back in the day, where people feel like they're really part of this community, that might start something that kind of trickles, you know what I mean? Like they're here, and then it trickles down to the smaller committees, the boards and the rec department and all that stuff. I think that if someone or a small group maybe were to spearhead, get the volunteers back together who hosted that last year, which was Jeff English. My mom was on that board, and then a lot of my friends were on that board. If we got together and just had a discussion, like, could we do this again? But this time, where's the money going, right? It's not going to them, it's going to a community, something that we all will benefit from, or our children will benefit from, to offset some costs, like if it was Evers, or if it was ADA pathway forever, whatever, you know what I mean? Like something specific, like we need $100,000, because we probably wouldn't raise $500,000 like they nearly did. But there is a lot of money, and it was engaging. It was super fun, and a lot of people volunteered their time, like as far as the musicians, and super fun.
I could see something directly for Evers. Because Evers Park has a significant amount of the population here that utilize it, whether it's their kids, or whether it's adults.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the direction to you for that is. I mean, cause yeah,
I
that was a
think-
separate group, and I think we all are interested in how they were able to do that and want to see it replicated and would like to.
I think some of its success was the fact that it was a grassroots effort, not a
Right,
government
yeah.
led thing.
That's true.
But, and it was a clear rallying, point that was unique. But yeah, very impressive, and I know I've heard there was some interest in maybe making this happen, but again and again, but I haven't heard that that it is.
But why not reach out to someone that like Jeff English, and say, hey, where are you guys at? Are you guys want to do that again? Because there can be it's kind of what our community needs, or what we're trying to raise money for. Would you be willing to get your committee back together and do another event similar to last year?
You will be at the bear run tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things to recognize is, and maybe this is a broader topic, talk about community events, because really since COVID and maybe before then, a lot of the events that did take place in Templeton have kind of gone by the wayside. Right? We lost the Chamber of Commerce, we lost a lot of those sort of key, not that they were the only one, but some of we have fewer events, fewer community events than we had 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I do need to get going.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then at some point, only other agenda items I wrote was updates, whatever comes out of the conversation.
Sure, we can update you on that too.
Okay. All right, okay, it is 5:13. Adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for staying.
You're welcome. Is that something that you guys would want to explore, like doing that? Because I'm like more involved with a lot of those people. Something that I could chat with them if you guys wanted to, but like.
I would think if you want to chat with them, try to figure out like what value